Welcome to Christ and Culture. This is Jeff Short. Glad to have you along for another video today. We're going to be talking about a really misguided, a really sick and twisted type of thinking that is now going through our country, and that is there is this almost righteous indignation against the pro-life cause. There are people who are pro-abortion, who are pro-death. They're in favor of killing babies in the womb. That's a barbaric, gruesome thing to even think about. But nowadays, our values and our culture are so twisted, and they're so perverted, that people can actually begin to feel a sense of self-righteousness in the cause of killing babies. As odd and as strange and as weird and as sick and twisted as that is, people now are getting this sense of righteous indignation about efforts to try to end abortion. Instead, it should be the other way around. The people who are trying to end abortion are like the abolitionists of old. They're trying to end an evil. Pro-lifers are trying to end a slaughter of children in the womb. They're the self-righteous crusaders. They have a righteous cause. They're the ones who are on the side of good and right. And yet, today in our sick and twisted society, the pro-abortion people are taking on this pseudo-righteousness and pseudo-indignation, and they think they're the crusaders for good. And the latest example of this comes from the Detroit Free Press, where it talks about a hotel in small-town Michigan offers free lodging to women traveling for abortion. I read this article in the Detroit Free Press, and this woman likens herself to the Underground Railroad, believe it or not. She wants women from the states that now have restrictive abortion laws, and she says if those laws actually go into effect, she's going to be inviting women from all over the country, from states that have restrictive abortion laws. She's going to bring them up to her little small town hotel in Michigan and give them free lodging as they have their legal abortion here in Michigan. And she thinks she's doing a great thing, just like the Underground Railroad operators were doing back in the 1800s when they were smuggling slaves up from the South into freedom in the North. And they were doing activism and righteous acts to try to help these slaves find freedom here in the North. And so this woman is likening herself to those Underground Railroad operators, where she is inviting women from the South to sneak up to Michigan and have an abortion, and she will put them up at her hotel free lodging, room and board, while they're getting their baby killed or their baby slaughtered in the womb. And she thinks that's a good thing. And we're seeing more and more of that kind of mentality when the values of our society are so upside down these days, where people who are doing despicable evil can actually internally think they're doing righteous acts. They think they're the good guys. They think they're wearing the white hat. They think they're the crusaders of righteousness, when in fact they're doing the devil's work. And that's what this woman is actually doing, whether she knows it or not. Here's the article as reported in the Huff Post, June 9th, 2019. It says, incensed by the spat of legislation severely limiting abortion rights in several states, the manager of a hotel in a small town, Michigan, posted an unusual offer on Facebook last month. Dear Sisters, Shelley O'Brien began in a post addressed to those who live in the states that have or are trying to restrict access to abortion. We cannot do anything about the way you are being treated in your home state, she wrote, but if you can make it to Michigan, we will support you with several nights lodging and transportation to and from your appointment for abortion services. That's her offer. So she's basically saying to the women in certain states, if you want to kill your baby, if you want to slaughter your child, to slaughter your offspring, we want to help you do that. And we're willing to offer you free nights and food for your stay here in Michigan while you get your baby killed. That's what she's saying. And it says the support includes staying at the Yale Hotel for free. Now, the Yale Hotel is, if you were to look at a map of Michigan, it's up in the thumb area. So it's like about halfway into the thumb area of Michigan. And so this woman is kind of in an off-road place. It's sort of a very, not such an accessible place. If you were to travel up to, say, for Detroit for an abortion, you would have to travel further up north to get to this woman's hotel. So it's not a very good place. It's surrounded by water, and there's really, you can only come in from the south side. So it's not a very user-friendly place, and she's probably not going to get a lot of women who would even take her up on her offer. But just to think that she would be willing to support women killing their offspring and think that she's doing a great thing is really sad, that we have a society that is made up of people who are doing evil but thinking they're doing right. It says O'Brien, 55, runs the hotel in Yale, Michigan. According to the Detroit Free Press, the community near the state's eastern boundary is perhaps best known for its annual Bologna Festival, which takes place every July. It's a largely conservative town with a population under 2,000. So it's a really, really small town. And it's known, I guess, for a bologna festival. And I think what she's offering is bologna. But that's another whole story. O'Brien, a mother of 3 and a grandmother of 7, told CNN on Saturday that she felt compelled to take a stand after watching such states as Alabama, Georgia, Louisiana, Mississippi, Ohio, Kentucky pass bills that seeks to significantly impede a woman's access to abortion. So she's watching the news, and she's seeing that a lot of states now are beginning to pass anti-abortion laws because they have come to realize that abortion is wrong and they want to do something about it. And they also feel that now might be the time, because of Brett Kavanaugh and some of the other judges on the Supreme Court, might give them a majority that would overturn Roe v. Wade, sending abortion back to the states. And these states are poised and ready to ban abortion when Roe v. Wade is overturned. So they're getting all set up. Now, some states are doing the very opposite of Alabama, Georgia, Louisiana, Mississippi, Ohio, and Kentucky. Some states like New York and most recently Illinois are passing even more radical abortion laws that allow abortion up to, and even in some cases even a little after birth or infanticide. So they're tottering on the almost allowing for infanticide, for example, like a partial birth abortion. Partial birth abortion is a gruesome thing, and it kills the baby. And even when a botched abortion happens, some of these states are going to pass legislation that would allow a doctor to let that baby die, and the mother to just simply sign off on that. So New York is a radical pro-abortion, pro-death state, and now Illinois is joining in, as well as some of the other larger states, and they're going the opposite way. So states are sort of getting themselves all set up in anticipation of Roe v. Wade overturning. There's no other way to explain why New York State would all of a sudden want to pass a radical pro-abortion law, and same way with Illinois. There's no other way to explain why they see the need to do that unless they think that Roe v. Wade is going to be overturned in the future. And so they're getting themselves poised and ready to keep abortion flowing, the blood flowing in New York and Illinois and these other states. Now, Alabama, Georgia, Louisiana, Mississippi, Ohio, and Kentucky, they are getting themselves ready to ban abortion. They're going to stop it, which is great, because they have the common sense of realizing that abortion is murder, and they need to stop that in their own states, because God is not going to bless any people that allows for the innocent lives of babies to be killed. So these states are getting themselves set so that when Roe v. Wade is overturned, they have an abortion ban. Now, Michigan says efforts also have been made in Michigan to restrict abortion rights, including introduction last month in the state legislature of a so-called heartbeat bill that would ban so-called. That's what the article says here, so-called. It's not so-called, it actually is. When the doctor detects heartbeat, then that would make abortion illegal, because wherever there's a heartbeat, there's a person. You can't get a heartbeat from a clump of tissues. You can't get a heartbeat from just a glob of cells. A heartbeat comes from a person, and a human heartbeat comes from a human person. And so it's a very good line of demarcation. Now, as Christians, we wouldn't even insist that this is a standard, because we believe that a person is a person from the moment of conception. So whether that heartbeat can be detected or not, that's still a person and deserves the full rights of personhood, because we believe that all people are made in the image of God, and that from their moment of conception on, they are loved by God and considered human. But this heartbeat bill, even though it's not the way we would totally want, it's a good start. It's a lot better than what we have right now. So it says that the so-called heartbeat bill that would ban the procedures after a fetal heartbeat is detected, a point when many women remain unaware that they are pregnant. The fact that a woman does not know that she's pregnant has nothing to do with the humanity of that baby. Nothing. And this is another thing that the secular press want to try to make an argument for. They want to say, well, you can't pass a law against abortion when a woman doesn't even know she's pregnant. Why not? Why can't you? It would be like someone is accidentally runs over a person, is dragging a person underneath their car, and the police come up and stop you from dragging this person, and they say, well, don't you know you have someone under your car? You need to stop. You can't blame me. I don't even know that there was a person under my car. It doesn't matter whether you have to get the car stopped by any means. The police have to stop it, or you have to realize it, or somebody has to stop the car because this person needs medical attention. And it's the same way with a baby. Whether the woman knows that she's pregnant or not has nothing to do with the humanity of the baby in her womb. And it's just more of a sort of a dead-end argument that they try to make that tries to have some kind of emotional effect or something. But it's like, well, I don't even consider it a baby until I know that I'm pregnant. Well, no, it's a baby, and you're pregnant whether you know it or not. And that has nothing to do with whether that baby should live or die. the baby should be able to live. And that once you understand that, you should then take the side of the baby. You should take the side of life. You should want to protect that life in the womb. And so there's really no excuse. There are a lot of emotional arguments that are invalid. It says in her Facebook post, which garnered thousands of reactions, O'Brien promised that she'd provide several nights free lodging at the Yale Hotel, as well as transportation to and from your appointment for an out-of-state woman seeking an abortion in Michigan. So this owner of this hotel is so committed to the culture of death, so committed to killing babies at the convenience of the mother, that she's willing to promote it, really aid and abet of a murder. She's willing to house a pregnant woman, feed the pregnant woman, and actually transport the pregnant woman to the abortion mill, and then wait for her to kill her baby, and then drive her back to the hotel and provide lodging and food until her return trip to wherever she lives. This is a radical pro-death activist. Speaking to the Free Press last week, O'Brien clarified that her offer extends to anybody seeking an abortion who may need support, including women who live in parts of her own state where abortion providers are few and far between. The paper noted that there are no abortion providers in Yale, but women can find such services an hour's drive away. So they go down south, closer to Detroit, and in Detroit, all kinds of services available, no doubt, because that city is a strong Democratic stronghold, a strong liberal, radical leftist city that basically sets the tone for this whole state, unfortunately, sadly enough. And then it talks about, it says here, Detroit Free Press tweeted out, hotel manager's Facebook offer, need an abortion, come to Michigan. So the Free Press is actually also promoting this too, because they're showcasing her cause. Instead of just letting this woman's pathetic offer go unnoticed and just simply ignoring it and just passing by this, they make it a big news article that shows her and gives a very sympathetic article about this woman's supposed courage and her generosity and so on and so forth, trying to make this woman out to be a saint when actually she's more like a devil or a demon, in trying to whisper into these women's ears and tempt them to say, hey, just come on up here and kill your baby, and I'll help you do that, and we'll work it all out. It'll all be good. But they're forgetting a very important thing. They're forgetting the baby. They're totally ignoring the life and health of the baby. They're only just thinking of one thing, and that is whatever is most convenient to the pregnant woman. That's something you cannot do when you're trying to make a moral decision. You cannot ignore the baby in the womb. You cannot pretend that the baby doesn't exist. You can't pretend it's just a clump of tissue or a clump of cells. You can't just say that, because it's not. Those heartbeat laws are laws that make a lot of sense, because where there's a human heartbeat is a human being. And you cannot abort a human being. You cannot kill a human being. You cannot slaughter a human being and call yourself a good person and do that. And so the Free Press really aids and abets this woman doing it because of the way they showcase and sympathetically portray her. It says further, O'Brien said no one has yet taken her up on her offer, but she has a room set aside for when someone does. She told CNN that she's dubbed the space Jane's Room in honor of Jane Roe, the pseudonym given to Norma McCorvey, the plaintiff in the Roe v. Wade case in 1973, established a woman's right to an abortion throughout the U.S. Now, the thing about that, and I think most people know this by now, the Roe v. Wade decision was based on a lie. Jane Roe, that is Norma McCorvey, claimed that she was raped, and she was not. That's a lie. So she claimed that she was raped, so she was trying to put her situation in a special category to try to get people's sympathy. Oh, this is a victim. This is a terrible, awful experience she had to go through. We should do whatever she wants. If she wants to have an abortion, we should give it to her because she's gone through this terrible experience. That's a lie. She was not raped. She admits as much later on in her life. Before she died, she told the whole story, and it wasn't a rape. So this whole Roe v. Wade decision, the whole sympathy it generated for her, the way the lawyers argued to the jury and all these other factors, those were based on lies and misrepresentations. But the pro-abortion people, they will do whatever they have to do. They will lie, they will cheat, they will pressure, they will emotionalize an argument, they'll personalize the argument so that they can get their outcome. And that's what we see even here. The newspaper puts this woman, this hotel operator, as sort of this righteous activist who's wanting to help women, where she's actually aiding and abetting to murder. That's what she's actually doing. And she's promoting and tempting women to kill their baby because she'll give them a place to stay while they have their baby killed. It says the only way this is going to change is if people are willing to risk something, she says, who's been called a baby killer for her views, told CNN. Yeah, she isn't a baby killer, but she's a assistant to a baby killer. So she's not the abortion doctor. It doesn't say that she's going to do the abortion, even though she could probably do it legally. They don't have a whole lot of restrictions on who is able to do the abortion or where the abortion is performed. So she could probably get away with actually doing the abortion. But as far as we know, she's not technically a baby killer, but she's basically driving the girl to the abortion clinic and picking her back up after the operation and then housing and feeding her, so she's helping facilitate the death of that baby. The reason they get away with stuff like this is because nobody wants to make waves, she says. Nobody wants to give up anything for it. So she's a zealot. She's a self-deluded, self-deceived zealot who thinks she's doing a righteous thing. She thinks she's doing a good thing. She thinks she's being the Good Samaritan. She's going across the street to help another person in time of need. Well, if you take away the fact that a baby is being murdered and killed and ripped apart and shredded apart by the abortionists, and you were to substitute any other situation, practically any other situation, into this equation, yeah, she would be. If she were to say, well, you know, if you have dental work and you need to come up to Michigan because you don't have insurance in your state or whatever, I will house you and then I will take you over to the dentist for your dental implants or whatever. If she were doing it something for some medical reason or something and she was willing to let people stay or whatever, that would be a good Samaritan. She would be doing a good thing. But in this case, her instincts are totally wrong. Her gut reaction, her sympathy, her motives are totally twisted and mangled. And this is the scary part, and this is what I mentioned at the beginning. We are seeing more and more people who are who are acting as if they're the they're the righteous activists, that they're in the righteous cause, and they get this righteous indignation about the fact that women can't kill their babies whenever they want to, and they feel that women should be able to kill their babies at any point within the pregnancy. It's up to the woman, and it's her body, and she can do whatever she wants, and they have this sort of righteous cause about them. And that is a scary thing, because you have evil being perpetrated. You have evil taking place, and the very people who are doing the evil think that they're doing a righteous act. And that's where we've arrived at in society today. So we need to really, really pray, because God is doing something big in respect to these anti-abortion laws. In the many states, they're starting to pass them. God is doing something. It seemingly looks like we may have judges now at the Supreme Court level who will throw out Roe v. Wade. They will put abortion back into the hands of the states. There will still be abortions taking place in some of these hard-hearted, cruel, evil, sinful, liberal, far leftist states that allow abortions at any point during the pregnancy and even after the birth. But then, on the other hand, there will be states that will ban the evil practice of abortion completely. And for that, we can thank God, because we need to pray that this, what seems to be developing, continues to develop. We pray that more and more states come on board and ban abortion and restrict abortion even more, to the point where there's a court case that goes to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court grabs that case and runs with it, and the outcome will be that Roe v. Wade will be overturned. That's what we need to continue to pray for. It hasn't happened yet. It hasn't happened in 40 years, and we've seen a lot of different judges come and go. We've seen a lot of presidential appointments come and go. We've had a lot of high hopes dashed before in the past, and this time we just pray that something happens to make it come to pass, that we actually see some real activity, positive movement in the pro-life cause, and so that someday we can actually live in states where there are no abortions, and that would be a blessing. Well, I hope that's been helpful, and we'll see you back next week on another edition of Christ and Culture. God bless.